He was called the Vampire of Sacramento, Richard Chase, a name whispered with fear and revulsion, a name synonymous with unimaginable horror. His crimes, a grotesque tapestry of madness and depravity, shocked even the most hardened investigators. Chase's thirst for blood, his ritualistic killings, and his utter disregard for human life left an indelible stain on the city of Sacramento. This is the story of his descent into the abyss, a terrifying journey into the dark heart of a killer. Richard Trenton Chase was born in 1950. His childhood was marred by instability and glimpses of the darkness that would later consume him. He displayed disturbing behavior at an early age, cruelty to animals, arson, and a fascination with fire. His parents, struggling with their own demons, seemed unable or unwilling to address his escalating problems. As he grew older, Chase retreated further into himself, his world populated by bizarre fantasies and a growing detachment from reality. His teenage years brought further descent. He began experimenting with drugs and alcohol, seeking solace in their numbing embrace. His academic performance plummeted, and he drifted from one dead-end job to another. All the while, the darkness within festered, fueled by paranoia, delusions, and a growing obsession with blood. By his early 20s, Richard Chase was no longer simply troubled. He was deeply mentally ill. He was plagued by hallucinations and bizarre hypochondriac beliefs. He was convinced his blood was turning into powder and his organs were being stolen from inside his body. He believed the only way to replenish his blood was to consume it from other living creatures. Chase's descent into madness was punctuated by increasingly erratic behavior. He was arrested for public intoxication, indecent exposure, and animal cruelty. He was committed to mental institutions on several occasions, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. But each time he was released back into society, deemed fit to function despite the simmering chaos within. His descent into utter depravity was now a terrifying inevitability. In the cold, dark winter of 1977, a wave of fear washed over the city of Sacramento, gripping its residents in a vice of terror. A string of seemingly random shootings and home invasions left residents on edge, their sense of security shattered. Each incident seemed more terrifying than the last, with no clear pattern or motive to be found. The crimes, each more brutal and senseless than the last, were marked by a chilling lack of motive. The randomness of the attacks made everyone a potential target, heightening the community's anxiety. Police were baffled, desperately searching for a connection, a thread that could lead them to the perpetrator of these senseless acts. They combed through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and tried to piece together the puzzle. Then, the unthinkable happened. On December 29, 1977, the body of 38-year-old Ambrose Griffin was discovered in his driveway. He had been shot and killed seemingly at random, sending shockwaves through the community. He had been shot and killed seemingly at random. The senselessness of the act left everyone in disbelief and fear. But this time there was something different, something that sent a chill down the spines of even the most seasoned detectives. The scene was unlike anything they had encountered before. The scene bore the unmistakable hallmarks of a ritualistic killing. The meticulous nature of the crime suggested a deeply disturbed individual with a specific, albeit twisted, purpose. And near the body, a chilling clue, a discarded body bag. This macabre detail added a new layer of horror to the already terrifying situation. Police officer, the randomness of the attacks, combined with the ritualistic elements, made it clear we were dealing with a very disturbed individual. The community's fear was palpable, and the pressure on law enforcement was immense. We knew we had to act fast before more lives were lost. The urgency to solve these crimes and bring the perpetrator to justice was more pressing than ever. The safety of Sacramento hung in the balance, and every second counted. Section 5. A trail of blood and body bags. The murder of Ambrose Griffin was just the beginning. It marked the start of a terrifying chapter in Sacramento's history, one that would leave the community in a state of perpetual fear and disbelief.
Over the next 6 weeks, Richard Chase would embark on a murderous rampage, claiming the lives of 6 innocent people. His spree was marked by a level of brutality that shocked even the most seasoned investigators. His victims were chosen seemingly at random, their only connection, the sheer misfortune of crossing paths with a monster. Each encounter was a deadly game of chance, with Chase as the Grim Reaper. He shot them, stabbed them, bludgeoned them, The methods of his killings were as varied as they were violent, leaving a trail of blood and terror in his wake. Each murder was more gruesome than the last, each one bearing the chilling signature of the vampire of Sacramento. His actions were not just crimes, they were acts of pure evil designed to instill fear and horror.
Body bags became a chilling hallmark of Chase's crimes. He used them to transport the bodies of his victims, often dismembering them before discarding their remains in secluded areas. These secluded spots became silent witnesses to his atrocities. The body bags, readily available due to his job at a meatpacking plant, were more than just a practical tool for Chase. They were an integral part of his gruesome ritual, a means to an end that only he could comprehend. They were a symbol of his twisted fantasies, a macabre shroud for the darkness that consumed him. Each body bag was a testament to his deranged mind, a physical manifestation of the horror he inflicted upon his victims and the community. Section 6, Inside the Lair of a Monster. This is not just a story, but a descent into the darkest corners of human depravity. Richard Chase's apartment was a scene straight out of a nightmare, a place where the unimaginable became reality. Blood stained the walls and floors, a gruesome testament to his unspeakable crimes. The sheer volume of blood was overwhelming, painting a picture of pure horror. Body parts were found stuffed into the refrigerator, chilling evidence of his cannibalistic rituals. Each piece told a story of unimaginable suffering and terror.
Empty liquor bottles and drug paraphernalia littered the apartment, a toxic cocktail fueling his descent into madness. And everywhere, body bags, a grim inventory of his victims. Some empty, others containing the gruesome remains of his victims. Each bag a silent witness to the horror that had transpired. The air hung heavy with the stench of death, a putrid reminder of the horrors that had unfolded within those walls. The smell was so overpowering that it clung to the clothes and memories of those who entered. It was a scene that would forever be seared into the minds of the police officers who dared to enter. Their faces, etched with a mix of fear and determination, told the story of the bravery required to confront such evil. It was a stark and terrifying glimpse into the mind of a monster, a place where sanity had long been abandoned. The apartment was not just a crime scene, but a window into the darkest depths of human nature.
On January 27, 1978, the reign of terror came to an abrupt end. Richard Chase, after a brief standoff with police, was apprehended outside his apartment building.
He was disheveled, his clothes stained with blood, his eyes wild with a terrifying mix of fear and madness. In his possession, police found a gun, a knife, and a body bag. The evidence against him was overwhelming.
News of Chase's arrest spread like wildfire through Sacramento. The city breathed a collective sigh of relief. The nightmare was finally over, but the scars left by the vampire of Sacramento, the terror he had inflicted, would linger long after he was gone. Richard Chase's trial was a media sensation. The nation watched in horror as the details of his crimes were revealed. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, painting a chilling portrait of a depraved killer driven by his own twisted desires.
The defense, faced with an insurmountable task, argued that Chase was legally insane, a victim of his own shattered mind.
On May 8, 1979, the jury returned with a verdict, guilty on 6 counts of first-degree murder. Richard Chase was sentenced to death. He would spend the rest of his days on San Quentin's death row.
But justice, though served, would do little to ease the pain of the families forever haunted by his crimes.
The impact of Richard Chase's crimes on Sacramento was profound. The city, once known for its sunny skies and vibrant community, was now forever linked to the horrors he had unleashed. Fear lingered long after his capture, a palpable shadow hanging over the city.
Parents held their children a little tighter. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. The sense of security, once taken for granted, was shattered.
But even in the face of such darkness, the human spirit endured. The community came together, offering support to the families of the victims. They mourned the innocent lives lost, vowing to never forget the victims of the vampire of Sacramento. On December 26, 1980, Richard Chase was found dead in his cell. He had committed suicide by overdosing on antidepressants. His death, though a tragic end to a life consumed by darkness, did little to close the chapter on his horrific crimes.
The memory of the Vampire of Sacramento, his chilling legacy, continues to haunt the annals of criminal history. Richard Chase's story serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human psyche, the devastating consequences of untreated mental illness, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives.
His crimes, though decades old, continue to fascinate and horrify, a stark reminder of the evil that men are capable of.